Welcome to the Watchman Weekly End Time Expose on Bible Prophecy. Get ready for teachings that will empower you for dominion as an end time believer and equip you for the times and seasons in which we live. You are now listening to the Watchman Joseph Kabuleta.
These are the days of Elijah, declaring the word.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time you're listening to this. Welcome to the Watchman broadcast today as we continue our study on the end time, on Bible prophecy, and on the times and season in which we are living in. And we are living in the last days, we're living in the days of the fulfillment of prophecy and mostly end time prophecies. On Monday, we actually woke up to the news of how Trump and Iran had reached a tentative deal, a kind of a peace deal, and end up all the kind of hostilities that has been happening around the Middle East, which has been going on for about 100 days right now. That is the war which has been between US, Israel, and Iran, of course. And this has been happening from March. Now, US and Iran, they have agreed to have reached a deal, which is, of course, tentative, aiming to end this war which has been going on, and also to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, and also to lift the naval blockade which America had put on Iran, and blocking all the space, the sea space of Iran, and making sure nothing enters Iran in terms of vessels getting in and out, blocking them. Now that one is ending, and also the signing ceremony, which is set to be this Friday. Of course, it's going to be in Switzerland, and the mediator, which has been making sure that these two parties, these two countries come to a point of a deal, that has been Pakistan. So that is just what has happened, but we have to discuss this from the line of Bible prophecy, because so many of these things it's not yet the final thing, because it's not like the final deal, because they have given themselves, the two parties, they have given themselves 60 days to actually make sure that they actually touch base on each and every single thing that they cannot resolve. But afterwards, after Friday, they will now reopen the Strait of Hormuz. They will make sure the naval blockade ends, and all those things will go on. But then in the period of 60 days, they will be talking a few things here and there to resolve whatever has not yet been resolved properly. But I would like us to actually discuss this from the light of Bible prophecy, from the light of the end time, from the light of the time in which we are living in, and look at it, its own perspective towards Israel, towards end time, and make it for us to really understand this, because this is something which has been of interest, and we know that anything that touches Israel, that is the word of God, the Lord himself has promised that look at the fig tree. When you see its fig, that is in Matthew 24 verse 32, which says that now learn this parable from the fig tree. When its branch has already become tender and put forth leaves, you know that summer is near. So God has been using Israel so much, and whatever happens around Israel, so much for us to know the end time. And the end time, the Watchman, our father, has actually said that Israel represents the time clock, God's prophetic time clock on earth. So anything that is going to happen to the earth, to the world, you look to Israel. So that is why Israel is very important, and whatever happens to it is very important for us. So let us look at this, what Trump and actually have agreed to. And that is, of course, like I said here, they have agreed, both of them, both the two parties, they have agreed that the Strait of Hormuz must remain open for free navigation, which is, of course, that will make sure that the oil prices reduce, and a lot of, that Strait of Hormuz, I think 20% of global trade passes through that place. So that's very important for the world, because things coming from China, going to Europe, to America, to Africa passes that place, oil, including oil and so many other things. Now, that means that's what they have agreed to. And then also Iran must not possess nuclear weapons. That is also one of the things that Trump has insisted on. And he has actually been insisting on this for a very, very long time, even from the beginning of the war, and even much earlier. And even we've discussed this from the previous broadcast in the end of last year, that Trump has always said that Iran should not have nuclear weapons, which of course they said they are not trusted. They are not supposed to be trusted with nuclear weapons. So Trump has always insisted, and now they have come to a place where they are going to make sure they limit that possession of nuclear weapons by Iran. That is one of the things that Trump has agreed to. But the thing is, Trump has, in this agreement, Trump has made sure that he actually puts Israel first, not to really involve themselves into this kind of agreement, because I knew Israel would actually have hindered him, but he actually tried to make sure Israel should not, he put pressure on Israel so that Israel should not interfere. And of course interfering with any of this, and that of course puts Israel at a point of risk, a bit of risk, but he made sure that he put some pressure on Israel to not interfere with them doing this agreement, this kind of deal. And now we know also that Trump has made J.D. Vance to come on board, and then Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, to be withdrawn a bit from these things. Marco Rubio and Steve Witkoff. Steve Witkoff is a guy whom Trump has used so much to broker so many deals, even the previous deals in the Middle East, mostly Middle East. He has been using him for that relations. Even the other previous deals, which he has tried to work them out, he has been using him, Steve Witkoff, to mediate and also bring the previous deals. But now this time we see J.D. Vance come on board. We see Marco Rubio getting back on stage, getting off stage of these even addressing. You see him out. Why? Because Marco Rubio is that person who wanted that Trump to really finish the job, and he was putting in the cabinet. I don't know whether it's cabinet, but in the Trump's team administration. Actually, it's called the Trump administration. In that Trump administration, Marco Rubio was that person who wanted them to go on and all out, America to go all out, and he's that person who wants to show forth America, like. But then J.D. Vance, he wasn't that person. He didn't like that thing of war. That's the thing. Now, so we see this time Trump has played his chess game very well, because he has put off Marco Rubio. Now J.D. Vance is the one who has come on board, and now he's the one even in addressing and talking about the deal. Marco Rubio has come on, and no. J.D. Vance has come on, and now he's the one addressing. He's the one talking about the progress on the deal and all these things. Now, why is that important? Because you see, Steve Witkoff, we know Iranians. It's important to know that Steve Witkoff and also Marco Rubio those two. They are now not so much trusted by Iran, the Iranian parties. They are not so much trusted by the Iranian parties. So, and that's why I believe Trump had to bring J.D. Vance, whom he didn't want from the start of the war. He didn't like more of the aggression. So that is, I believe he has really played that chess so much, and then so that they actually push and actually get this deal sealed. And now, for us, we are now looking and watching what would Trump want to do, or what is Trump intending to do with the 60-day ceasefire period, where in those 60 days they are going to be refining and resolving what has not been resolved. And what do you think he has? Because Trump has actually, in this deal, Trump has received something so small, and we're going to look at some of those things. Because you see, when you look back last month, Trump went from America to, of course, to China. So when he went to China around May, he went to China, and there he went there and he wanted to actually bring out his Trump order, the global order, and make America great and show forth the American might, and how he intend to, we know this has been happening for a long time, how America wants to topple China from being an economic power and also a global power. And we know that Trump is building that kind of autonomy, whether in politics, in economy, and whatever kind of thing. And that's his thing of make America great again. So that has been his thing, and he has been trying to build it. You remember, he went to Middle East, made some good deals. He went to Middle East, Saudi Arabia, I think, if I've not forgotten, Qatar as well. He went there and he did that. Now, in this time last year, which of course early May, he went to China, and he had wanted to go there after striking Iran, and really Iran has been like toppled, so let me say like that, toppled, and they're on their knees, so that he comes out victorious. But then he went there because he had to push his China visit by 1 month, and in that period of 1 month, he had wanted to actually really make Iran be on their knees, because you remember at that time, that's when the Strait of Hormuz was closed, and then also a lot of the naval blockade started coming in. America having a naval blockade on Iran. That's what they had really done, and that was he had wanted really to make Iran beg, and then actually them fall on their knees and then come to a deal. Then afterwards he would come to China, but then that didn't happen. So what happened is he went to Iran when the issue of Iran was the conflict, and that the war was still going on. So even that, he went to Iran, and when he went to China, and when he went to China, he of course negotiated a few things, but of course that he didn't come out of China with so much with a show of his dominance and American dominance. They just had a few agreements and a few deals, like on minerals, earthly minerals, then also AI cooperation, and then also I think just a few on Taiwan. Yes, there was also on Taiwan, and that is China told Trump and America not to so much focus on Taiwan and give them support and aid like that. And that's how immediately after, let me speak about that. Immediately after, then that's when we see leaders from Taiwan come to China. It was one of the things I saw, and I said, wow, this is amazing. Because after their meeting, after Trump meeting with the president of China, then they had some few agreements, not really big agreement, just few agreements on getting earthly minerals, and then also making sure that they cooperate in terms of AI, and then also America gave some kind of a deal to China to buy some of their Boeings. So that was just what they agreed on. But China did not really buy into so much of the things which Trump had actually, they really wanted to come on. And how Trump had it wanted to show forth his strength. Because China at that time, they were not really excited about America and what they were doing to Iran. And like we've taught here, that China and Iran, they are allies. But now, because of the naval blockade, there were no cheaper oil coming from Iran to China, the way China used to get it from them. So that was what was causing a very big problem to China. And China, looks like China actually put some kind of issue of Iran to the table to Trump and his team. And you see, so China actually made sure that they present what they really want from that meeting with the US. So they talked about the Strait of Hormuz to remain open and for free for navigation. And also they talked about how Iran should not possess nuclear weapons. That was what they discussed when Trump went to meet the president of China. And now, precisely, those are the actual points which are now we see in this new deal, which has been brokered, which is now going to be signed on Friday with US and Iran. But you see, with that, there is the aspect where Trump wants to build that his global order, and we know he's going to actually increase on it, and is building it through the economic might, and America being on the economic leadership of the new financial order. But because he came to China, he found a lot of resistance, that kind of resistance, to the point that, like I told you, they didn't really make a lot of a big bargain and get out of that place, out of China, with a lot of with so much good things which he had wanted to. So it wasn't. Of course, he came out with some, but he didn't. So China mostly emphasized on them making sure that they are always free to get their cheap oil from Iran. That's what they really emphasized to Iran, to Trump on Iran, and that's what they made sure they kept on re-echoing it with Trump, and also, of course, with the bargain of also Trump saying that no, Iran has not to have the nuclear weapons. So I believe because of that, Trump now made sure he comes back. When he went back to the US, his focus was to make sure those were the things he will now go and focus on. And that's why he kept on pressuring Israel to lower their tempo. Because of course we know Israel wants to make sure they are not insecure. So he kept on making Israel to keep on holding, not to make sure, not to really forcefully do whatever they want to do, because they can go into Iran and do whatever they can do, what they want to do. So Trump kept on pressuring Israel, and that's why I wasn't actually understanding, but now I have started to understand why Trump, for the past 1 month, Trump has been, and their relationship with Benjamin Netanyahu wasn't that close and that intense, like that good, the way it used to be. And this was because of actually what, after Trump had gone to China made sure that that's what it showed Trump that this is what they want, their cheap oil, and that is. So Trump, when now he came back and started pressuring Israel. Now, make sure, please, don't over-escalate the things that are happening in this war. Let's try to close it from that perspective. Then also, Trump started to allow the Qataris and the Pakistanis and the Saudis to start serving as mediators. So those, the Qataris, the Pakistanis, the Saudis, they were now involved into mediation of a peace deal. So they kept on working on it. And then also, now that's why I spoke of Trump bringing in J.D. Vance into play. Of course, these are people whom the Iranians, the Pakistanis, they will trust more than Marco Rubio and Steve Witkoff. So that is how this whole thing has been worked out. So we look at this and say that now that Trump did this, he's actually calculating something higher than what most people might have not seen. And that is calculating something with China more than before. So we are supposed to we are going to continue watching his footsteps, Trump and China, in these 2 months or the 60-day period, and see whether China will complete their side of understanding with Trump and make sure that Iran remains non-nuclear, like without possession of nuclear weapons, and also Israel and America will become, of course, they will keep calm and not continue. If that succeeds, it will be okay. It will be a good thing. But if it fails, of course, I know Trump will have to make sure that Israel will now, he will open arms to Israel to do whatever they can do. That is, of course, that is one other aspect. But you see, this agreement, it is clear that it's not really so much favorable to Israel from Israel perspective. Of course, we know that any agreement between Israel and between Iran and America, it will never affect. It will never be at a good advantage to Israel, because we've seen formally, even the one of 2015, the JCPOA, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which was by Obama, and that was the time when they limited Iran, and then after limiting Iran for their nuclear weapons, and then they gave sanction relief to Iran, and that's the time when Iran got some more money, and then their economy skyrocketed, and then that's when they started getting money to actually enrich uranium and build nuclear weapons. Now, even the ones which in, I think, 2022, when this guy, Sleepy Joe Biden, went and actually there was that deal between America and Iran, and Biden gave $6 billion in return to America, getting some of their those arrested people who were arrested in Iran, Americans, the nationals. Now, $6 billion Iran got from America, and then that's how Iran also got a lot more money. And after that time, 1 year later, that's when October 7th broke out. So you see, like, all these deals between America and Iran has never been at a good advantage to Israel, because that strengthens more Iran and makes them more strong, and then that's how they can start exploding and doing a lot of these what they do. But like us to look at these, let's do some analysis of this perspective of the deal which has been reached by Iran and US. And we're going to look at financially. We know that the current regime, which is in Iran, they are still that type of regime that do not love Israel, and their vow is to the destruction of Israel. Of course, we know that guy Mojtaba Khamenei, the son to the previous predecessor, the guy whom Iran is, and whom the US, in conjunction with Israel, blew up. and in March, which was February 28th, that night, February 28th to March 1st. Now, that is the same regime, that's the same people that do not want the existence of Israel, and they have vowed that their goal is to wipe out Israel from the face of the map. But we see Trump, by this deal, gives Iran more chance for their economy to boom and to expand. Because now that means the Strait of Hormuz will be open, the naval blockade is over. And if that is that, then that means actually more goods will start coming into Iran, but also Iran will export more. And then in exporting more, like the oil, which I actually had at some point, their oil reserves had become full because these guys kept on producing oil. They did not stop. Now they kept on producing oil, and putting them in the reserves. Now, when they had done a lot, even I heard that their reserves were all full. Now that means they are actually going to do a lot of. That's why oil prices has dropped, and it will continue dropping, because now the Strait of Hormuz is open. Goods will start coming in and getting out. Iran will have time to sell their oils, and that means billions of dollars will come to Iran. Also, that means Iranian frozen assets will have to be released. Okay, it's expected, not really. And that means there has to be a lot. The outcome is Iran will grow stronger financially. But also, you know that the 60-day period is there. And once the 60-day period expires, that means also the existing sanctions that has been on Iran from Europe, from America, they will have to be lifted. And that means what does that mean? That means those sanctions, that means Iran has time is free to actually trade freely without sanctions, and so many nations will be open to them, and countries will be open to them for export and trade, and they will do a lot of trade. And you see, the outcome of that means they will have more money coming into Iran. The economy will be strong. And in this, for the past 6 months, the economy of Iran had been going down, and their currency had been being devalued so much. Now, with these funds flowing into Iran, I believe Iran will use it for rearmament. They will also continue in their missile program, in their drone program, and I suspect nuclear might also, but mostly they will use it for rearmament, like building their military might, because now they know that anything is possible. And of course, this takes us to Bible prophecy, which we shall touch in conclusion to this, which we are trying to discuss. But also, this very regime will now be rich and have more funds. They will not just only strengthen themselves militarily by building their missile factories, what they call missile cities, underground, and possibility of rearmament and building their military, really building it, because it has been hammered badly. Now they are going to have time to rebuild it. And then also they are going to now start sponsoring and sending more money, which they will have to Hezbollah, to the shared militias in Iraq, the Palestinian, of course, terrorists in Gaza, which is, like those, the Hamas, strengthening. And Hamas is weakened, Hezbollah is weakened. Now they will have to strengthen them and send more money there. And also the Houthi rebels in Yemen. Now they are going to all be strengthened. And of course, you know what that leads to, because all those are strengthened for one reason: wiping out Israel from the face of the map. Now, that can take us somewhere, and we shall talk about it. because that means Iran will be strong and will grow stronger and stronger. Now, but let's talk about the nuclear issue, because despite so many repeated promises, Trump has actually told the New York Times that Iran would be permitted to enrich uranium at lower level. Of course, his own thing is he doesn't want them to have. But you see, that is this is what he told New York Times. And that, they can have it in a low level, and we know that this regime of Iran will, if they are allowed to do something to enrich uranium, even if low level, they will skyrocket it to maximum level. That's what they will do, because that's what they had told them not to do in 2015. They just only to have low level, which is for energy and all that. But then they just skyrocketed and started enriching. And that's how in 2018, Trump just had to pull out of that joint comprehensive plan of action, because said, now these guys, we told them not to have these, not to enrich nuclear weapons, which was, of course, it was Obama in 2015. But those guys, they just started enriching and putting more enrichment of uranium and coming close to a nuclear bomb. That's how in 2018, now Trump comes in and said, now we have withdrawn, because these people are not, we said, do not enrich to a certain level. But for you guys, you are enriching and going beyond certain percentage. Now, Trump withdrew. That time in 2015, it was for them to make sure if they do not enrich, that means they will not have sanctions. But now when Trump came in, says he came and saw that they are not actually, in 2018, that they are not abiding by the principles and of the agreement of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. Then he just withdrew and put sanctions. 2018 to 20, that's 2018. Now in 2022, when Biden comes, Biden withdraws. Gets back to Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. And that means after getting back into that, now Iran has enough time that's the time they started in 2022. To the point that it was reported that in 2022 that Iran was left with a few weeks to have a 60% enrichment of uranium. No, they were already 60% enrichment of uranium in 2022, and they were a few weeks to reach a maximum enrichment of uranium. So, and because of course, like of what we have talked about in 2022 with that deal which Biden made with Iran, they were given more money. You see, like all that. Now, if this thing also happens, Iran this time will now enrich. I believe they will enrich. And when they enrich, even Trump is trying to promise them a low level, but now they will go maximum, because now they know that they must have that thing. And you know how they are now, they are hungry. Like they are really hungry of what has happened to them, because their supreme leader was taken down, their leadership is taken down, their military generals, so many Israelites eliminated, a lot of them, they're inside Iran. Both Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps and Iranian Army, I'm forgetting its their other name, because there are two arms of the military. There is Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, and then there is that Iranian, I'm forgetting its name. Now, all those two, they are generals, they are the leaders of units, and what they have been eliminated. So many of them has been eliminated, to the point that even the president of Iran had to resign. You see, that has been in the span of these few months that this thing has been going on between Israel, Iran, and America. Now, and their nuclear enrichment, part of them has been hit with, of course, the one of last year, how Israel also hit them. So that has been what has been going on with these guys, and it is really, really they are at a bad state militarily. So they will restructure. They will make sure. I know they will make sure they go on and enrich properly now this time, because they know that they cannot trust any other nation. Even you see how they were now going against Qatar and all that. So they are going to, I know, with the regime which is there. So that is what is I believe on the nuclear issue. But then there is also the issue of the Lebanon, because Israel has also gone into Lebanon and been fighting there, making sure that they take away Hezbollah terrorists who are there and make sure they actually cannot really affect them. So Iran now, this time, they made sure that this deal will be applicable to Lebanon as well, so that Israel also should stop fighting there, and also actually Trump has agreed to that, and that's why I told you that this is what has not made Trump and Netanyahu at a very good pace within these few things, because Trump has tried to put them down. Make sure, please don't, let's finish this thing. And I told you, Trump is not a person of war. Like, that's the truth. The truth, he's not a person of war. He doesn't want war to escalate and overtake long like Putin. But because him is more of calculation and economy and all that, that is his thing. So Iran now has presented themselves to save Lebanon, but mostly not Lebanon, mostly Hezbollah, who are the militias backed by Iran, and they are in Lebanon. That's the thing. I believe that is the real gist of the thing. And of course, I know still this will make sure that Hezbollah is strengthened, but again, because Israel has been doing the same thing, eliminating. By the way, Israel has weakened Hezbollah, because Hezbollah is more stronger than the Hamas in Gaza. But Hezbollah is the strongest of all these other militias that are supported by Iran. Of course, they are stronger than the Houthis. They are stronger, many in number. They train themselves in military combat and escalations. They are trained. Then they also receive funding and also military armament, like receiving things like drones, rockets, and missiles from Iran. So they are really, really strong. They are really structured, well structured than Hamas. Hamas, yes, they are, but Hezbollah is the strongest. You cannot compare Hezbollah to Hamas, to the Iraqi militias, to also these ones, the Houthi of Yemen. You can't. That's why Israel has decided that they will go in and actually make sure they do that job and finish. And the same way Israel has depleted Hamas, that's the same way they went into Hamas in Gaza. That's the same way they have entered into Lebanon, and that's their target. And you see that Benjamin Netanyahu is not a joking subject. He just said that we are going to finish the job. And that's the thing. Because the real thing is that they want to live in security. They don't want to live in a place where they are insecure. They are not, because Lebanon is bordering Israel to the north. And in 2006, there was the first, I don't know the first Lebanon war, but let me just say there was that war in 2006, where Lebanon was there, and that was the same war that the Hezbollah was also involved in with. So that time they reached a certain deal that they are supposed to make sure that if Hezbollah are going to be in Lebanon, they are supposed to be far away from the border of Israel, 26 miles beyond a certain river called Litani River in Lebanon. Now, That was what was agreed. But of course, you know how the Hezbollahs are. They kept on coming closer and closer and closer, and that sparked the war, which started around the November of 2024. Israel actually now started fighting Hezbollah at that, and it kept on increasing, and then I think the beginning of last year, somewhere around March, if I'm mistaken, but they reached a certain deal, and that was that same deal. But then when Israel attacked in this war with US, Israel, and Iran, when that war sparked, the Hezbollah also started coming in. So Israel has now gone there because they have broken the deal which they had achieved last year. Now, so because of that, now Israel has entered and they have been doing damage to Hezbollah in Lebanon, and they have entered, making sure they get them all their terror infrastructures, all those, they get them and break them down and take them over. So that has been happening. And actually, in my perspective, because right now Israel has occupied half of Gaza, is occupying a half of Gaza to a certain line, they call it the yellow line. Now, I think that's the same thing they want to do in Lebanon, southern Lebanon, to the point that they also have a certain line, to the point that they would intend to possess it to a certain line in Lebanon. Now, that's what I think. But now you see, in this deal, now Iran says, no, even Hezbollah, even Lebanon is part of this deal, has to be part of this deal. So that means Israel will have to withdraw. Of course, that's not so good to Israel, but we shall see what that will count. Now, let's talk about the region of the Middle East according to this deal, because we know that there is a lot of setback now militarily in Iran and the regime. By this deal, Iran will restore their regional power. If this goes, like we've tried discussing this. If this goes, that means Iran will now restore their regional power and their regional might, controlling Iraq, controlling Iran, which of course Iran, Iraq, Syria, also Lebanon, Yemen, and maybe now, of course, the other one of the Qatar and Saudi is not really, they cannot control. Those are a bit stronger, but I believe this other Iran again will emerge as a regional power, and that means terrorism will also increase. So that is my perspective about it, to see that this will cause it, because now they will start sponsoring again the Yemenis, Houthi rebels, the Iraqi militias, the Hezbollah terrorists in Lebanon, then also Hamas in Gaza. They will start doing that. But let's first wait, because we shall see what will unfold, because sometimes we just need to watch and pray and see how this will actually keep on coming up and unfolding. It is something. But the question is, why did Trump actually settle for receiving something very little in return? Because the truth is, he has received little. But like we first said, that looks like Trump is having a bigger calculation, mostly with China. Because we see that from the time he came back from China, that was now what he started moving towards, making sure that this war ends. Which, of course, what they had discussed in China as well with Xi Jinping, that they have to make sure the Strait of Hormuz is reopened and free for access, and then in nuclear weapons not to be possessed by Iran. So that is, but let's first look at this, because the Strait of Hormuz was one of the negotiating power that I think China used. But then that leaves Israel also to now start standing alone. And this is now coming to what we love to see in Bible prophecy in the fulfillment. Because in that war, where it's going to be the River Euphrates War, the Gog and Magog War in the book of River Euphrates War, written in Revelation 9:13 to 21, Gog and Magog in Ezekiel chapter 38 and chapter 39. Israel stands alone, and they are overwhelmed by so much power that would come against them. So Israel now will start looking at standing alone, and they are supposed to start looking at not trusting anyone. And that is because there is a certain point where Israel has been trusting America. Now it looks like it will lead Israel to start acting alone and standing alone. Because I also some time back I was looking and hearing Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, saying that they are going to make sure in 10 to 15 years they don't have any aid from America. And that's really cutting off. So these 60 days, Israel, of course, they might negotiate in these 60 days for more of something in their favor. But the truth is, Lebanon, Israel might stand their ground in Lebanon. That's one thing which I also see, that Israel might stand their ground in Lebanon and also make sure they don't really they really stand their ground. So this takes us to Bible prophecy, because in that war the scripture says that Israel will be attacked by so many nations, and America will not, there will not be any kind of support. Now that takes us to a place where Israel will begin standing alone. Iran will begin to be strengthened again and become a power in the Middle East, and their dominance will increase, starting first from the inside of Iran, and inside of Iran then making sure that they rebuild the destroyed things and territories and things that has been destroyed in these times, in this war. They will rebuild themselves. So we are going to see that happening, and Iran will again emerge as a global power, that Middle East power, and then that will lead us into what will be an amazing period of time, because that takes us to the future. And in the future, we know that now Iran, of course, Iran will ever be an enemy to Israel, because that's where the prophecy fulfillment will start coming in. And that's where now Iran will start allying with Turkey, and their allies still remains, by the way. Their allies with Turkey, their ally with Putin, okay, not Putin really, but Russia, because Russia is mentioned in that war. Then their ally with China, and of course China being one of the key people who have influenced this deal, but not directly but indirectly, because it all started from when this guy Trump went to China. So in these coming months and years, not even let me just say years, we are likely now going to see that the tie between Israel and Russia increase, their ties increase. China and Iran, the ties between. So we are going to see the ties between Iran and China evolve and increase. Then we are going to see the tie between Iran and Russia increase. And we've talked about how this thing has actually been happening. It has been building up already, because they have agreements. Like there are so many agreements that has been signed between Russia and Iran, and also Iran and China. They have signed so many agreements to work together to make sure they strengthen themselves, and also to supply each other with things like ammunition. That has been happening. But now after this war, we are going to see it happen. Because even in this very war, you remember that Moshtaba, that son of Kamane, he survived because Israel went and bombed where he was, but he only got, I think his leg was amputated, something like that, and that's when he was rushed to Russia. So, for treatment in this very war, in March, that was what happened. But you see, their ties has been, but now it's going to be strengthened, and then we shall see Syria, Iraq, Iran, ties between, we shall see Iran controlling that part where it's called the River Euphrates, like the bank of River Euphrates and the area of the River Euphrates. That means their ties with Turkey will be there, and then also Iran will control more of Syria, more of Yemen, the way they are doing, and more of Iraq, and then there will come that time, and also Lebanon. Then there will come that time when they will come as a cloud on the mountains of Israel, as the scripture says in Ezekiel 39, that they will come as a cloud, and then that war will happen, and that will be the River Euphrates war, but that will be also the Third World War, spoken in the same. Then after that, then that's when there will be that. Of course, you know that's the Third World War. Then afterwards, you know that's how I believe that war is going to come to fulfillment, because we know at some stage that war has to come to pass. And now having this peace deal leads us into kind of quickens. Of course, it will take time. It will not be like that very fast, but it will take time. So that's my perspective, how I'm seeing what this US-Iran peace deal is leading us into. And that is one of the ways. We know very well now Israel will start standing alone, because they will also, and they are already preparing themselves, because they can now, their trust on America will keep on reducing and starting to learn to stand alone. Then Iran now will begin to be strengthened to prepare for that war. And then at some point then, Iran and their allies, of course, I believe China will be part of that war. Because if you look in Revelation, it says that an army that cannot be numbered, 200 million, their number was 200 million. And that means China is one of the people who have, the countries that have an army of 200 million, and including the reserves. Then also that in Ezekiel talks about Rosh, which is Russia, Meshech, which is Moscow, and then also some other North African countries will have to join in that war, and then they'll come as a cloud to wipe Israel. But of course, it all leads in their bleeding, because Israel will not be taken away. I'll read one prophecy in Amos chapter 9 verse 12. Okay, I'll read from 11. It says, "On that day I will raise up the tabernacle of David, which has fallen down, and repair its damages. I'll raise up its ruins and rebuild it as in the days of old." Now, this is God promising to Israel after their return, that they will, of course, this is a prophecy. If you keep on reading it, it talks about how Israel will be restored as a nation. Like I've mentioned here in Matthew chapter 24 verse 32, which says that when you see the fig tree, and fig tree is Israel, it says when you see the fig tree blossom and its leaves become tender, and then you know that actually summer is near, or you know that the coming of the Lord is near. Now that is what this that prophecy is talking about, and that prophecy talks about the restoration of Israel, and we know that Israel has been restored as a nation, and they have come back. Now that this is still the same talk, it's the same thing talking about Israel being restored. So on that day I'll raise up the tabernacle of David, which has fallen down, which means bringing them back to that very same place, and I'll raise up its ruins. So Israel has been raised, the ruin has been raised, and they have actually been rebuilt as a stronger nation, and they're actually one of the world superpower nation in this present day. Then it says that they may possess the remnant of Edom and all the Gentiles who are called by my name, says the Lord who does this thing. Behold, the days are coming, says the Lord. Verse 14, I'll bring back the captives of my people Israel. They shall build the waste cities and inhabit them. They shall plant vineyards and drink wine from them. They shall also make gardens and eat fruit from them. I will plant them in the land, and no longer shall they be pulled up from the land I have given them, says the Lord. He says, no longer I will take them. No longer shall they be pulled away. Now the Iranians, they tried, the Hamas in Gaza, they want to wipe out Israel from the face of the map. God says when they bring them back, they'll never be taken away. That has been continuously being fulfilled in our eyes and in our ears in history from when they started coming back in 1917. In 1948, when they were birthed as a nation, formed as a nation. In 1948, there was a war. They wanted to wipe them again. The Arabs were so annoyed that why do you divide Palestine? Then they started coming. That independence war, they failed. 1956, there was a Suez Canal crisis with Egypt. They failed. 1967, when the conglomerates and the confederacy of nations came, Jordan, Egypt, Iraq, Lebanon, and all those, they wanted to come and wipe Israel out of the face of the map. They failed. 1973, the Yom Kippur, they failed. 2006, they failed. That's Lebanon war. Hamas, October 7th, 2023, they failed. Even in this third world war, which will be that third world war, they will still fail. And Israel will still be victorious. Because God has prophesied that they will not be pulled away from the land which he has given them. That's by prophecy. And of course, that leads us to the end time. When they come, Israel will beat them hands down, and then they will still emerge victorious. And then that will be the peace agreement. The peace agreement will come up after that. Then that leads us to the end time prophecies. We've run out of the time now, but I would like to invite you for the Watchman Fellowship every Friday. This Friday, of course, starting at 6 p.m. at the Watchman grounds, opposite Mukwaya General Hospital, near the American Embassy. We start at 6. Please come with a friend, invite families, friends, and come ready to receive from the Lord and being prepared as end-time believers. Thank you so much for listening in. Have yourselves a lovely evening, morning, afternoon, whatever time you're listening. God bless you.
That was the Watchman Joseph Kabuleta. Join us for our Friday fellowship starting at 6 p.m. at the Watchman grounds opposite Mukwaya Hospital near the American Embassy along the main Gaba Road. To connect to the anointing upon the Watchman, you can give through the ministry mobile money lines +256 780 292 555 or +256 755 292 555. Follow us on Facebook, The Watchman, TikTok, The Watchman Ministries, YouTube, Ugandan Watchman, X at UG Watchman, Instagram at @the_UG Watchman, or email info@ugwatchman.com. For more information on how to give resources and more, visit our website at ugwatchman.com. The Watchman, the King is coming.